Hello, everyone. All right. I believe we are live. I just played a bit of Mr. President on my work account. So we are going to try again on my actual account. Hopefully, it's a little awkward because we're going to start over. Since I don't want half of the video to be on my work account, half of the video to be on my main account. So, this is Earth Bowser, your good friend Earth Bowser. I hope you are ready for a fun and exciting time where you will watch me move chits around a board and reference several different charts. That is the game of Mr. President, the game that we will be playing currently. It is basically a simulation-style board game where we take on the role of the President of the United States of America. It's a fun game by GMT. I got it not too long ago. I've had it for about a month, maybe a little more. Played several games. It does take a good amount of time. It takes a good amount of table space. And my cats have destroyed a couple of the games. So we are going to try on Tabletop Simulator. Trying to stream it. A friend of mine wanted to see kind of what it was like. So I am going to put a game online and see what we do. Hopefully the cats won't destroy this one. It'd be a little harder for them to do that. But yeah, it is a very fun game. I have enjoyed myself with it quite a bit. There is a lot to it. So there are quite a few rules in it. It's a very in-depth game. There are quite a few rules that contradict each other in the various books that come with it. So I'm not an expert at the game, but I think I have a pretty good handle on how it works. If anybody does see me do any wrong moves or mess anything up, let me know, and then we will see what we can do. But there may be some instances where I am a little confused on rules and might just have to make a rule decision. Who knows? Like I said, I already did this on my work channel, so we are going to try to do setup. What we will have to do, we are doing what's called the sandbox version. There are various scenarios that you can do. I normally have done the sandbox version so far. We are going to play on normal difficulty. So we will need to adjust a couple things that are currently on the board, such as the rogue state over here in the Middle East. That does not appear in the normal version of the game. The first thing we really need to do is basically roll our character, create our president, and that will involve drawing attributes. I'm a little sad. Like I drew attributes that I hadn't used before in previous games. So in the basically the take one version that I started earlier, this will be the take two version. We will see. Our cabinet was all right. We had a pretty bad vice president before, but we will draw again and see what we got. So like I said, to start with, we will be creating our president, basically our character that we're going to be using in the game. We're going to draw attributes for ourselves, and that will give us various strengths in the game. So we're going to draw two of them. Over the course of the game, it's possible we can draw more attributes later on, depending on what happens in the game. So, let's see what we get. So our first one is going to be efficient. So we get +4 presidential APs per turn. APs stand for action points. That'll allow us to do more things in our turn. So that's pretty good one. I'm not opposed to that. We are also media savvy, so we get +1 to media relations per turn. That's also not too bad because media relations do tend to decay over time. So having a +1 every turn to that is not bad at all. Next, we are going to draw an exceptional White House resource. There's only 5 of these cards. They're very good. They give us very good bonuses. We also do get a chance to draw another one over the course of the game. So let's see what we get to start with. we have. Oh, this is actually what we had in the Take One version also. So we have a talented and beloved First Lady. The nation has fallen in love with the First Lady and her causes. Some of her popularity rubs off on you and your presidency. Because of her talents and charisma, you receive the following benefits at the start of each turn. At the start of each turn, receive +2 public approval and +1 to either media relations or party relations, your choice. So we actually do have a possibility to get a +2 to media relations each turn. That's pretty nice. Might start with party relations. I'm not sure. We'll see what we have. So these are our attributes to start with. Next, we are going to draw our cabinet members. We're going to start with our vice president. Our vice president, we don't actually get to choose among different people. With Chief of Staff, Secretary of State, and Secretary of Defense, we get to draw 3 people and choose among them. We don't get to do that for the Vice President because it's assumed that we start the game on our first year, the first day of our first year. So it's assumed that the Vice President was already on your presidential ticket, and both of you have been voted into office already, so you are stuck with your vice president, whoever that was. So we will go ahead and draw for our vice president. Let's see who we get. And we have Henry Haynes. Not bad at all. So the numbers at the bottom of this chit are going to represent domestic score, diplomatic score, and military score, in that order. So the vice president tends to use a domestic and diplomatic scores, so that is perfect that Henry has 1 in both of those. There is also, if you flip these chits over, there's also going to be a quote-unquote experienced side. Looks like Henry doesn't change whatsoever on his experienced side, so it will never matter if we flip him or not. A lot of times on their experienced side, they will have a higher number or will get an extra action when they move. So for Henry, Henry looks just kind of okay, just kind of decent. So experience side doesn't actually do anything, doesn't have an extra action, but does have a score in domestic and diplomatic spots. So we're not terribly upset that we've got Henry. Next, we are going to draw for our Chief of Staff. Chief of Staff tends to use the domestic score, so we will want a character with a high domestic score. Let's see who we draw. Oops. There we go. All right, so we got Bill Hansen. Bill Hansen looks to be a more militarily focused character. Kelly Borgeson does have a lot of a domestic score, so that is something we are looking for. Krista Halston, excellent character, 1 in everything. I'm going to look, so basically, we are not going to use Bill Hansen. Bill Hansen is not a good Chief of Staff candidate. Let's look at the experience side for Kelly and for Krista. So Krista gets extra stuff on the experienced side for diplomatic and military. Kelly doesn't get anything on her advanced side, just like Henry over here. But I do believe we're going to go with Krista. Krista looks like a great candidate all around. Does get an extra action, so good job, Krista. You are our Chief of Staff. I think I would prefer her as Secretary of State or Defense, but I am not going to complain that she's our Chief of Staff. Now we are going to draw 4 Secretary of States. Let's see what we got. All right, we've got Andy Lewis, Bill Hansen, and Kim Richard. Andy Lewis, actually, there are 2 Andy Lewis chits in the draw pile. There's a good one and a bad one. We drew the bad one, so we will not be using Andy Lewis. We do also have Bill Hansen, who does not have a diplomatic score at all, so probably not going to go with Bill. We are probably going to go with Kim Richard. Kim Richard looks like an excellent candidate all around. And has an action on both sides also, extra action. Congratulations, Kim. You are going to be our Secretary of State. Everybody else does go back to the draw pile. They do have a chance to be pulled for the other cabinet position. We are now pulling for Secretary of Defense, which is our last cabinet position to fill. Let's see who gets it. We've got Ivan Mercer, does have a military rating. Andy Lewis again, pulling out the bad Andy Lewis. Kelly Borgeson, I think we drew her for Chief of Staff too, and she doesn't have anything in the background. So, Andy Lewis, what does your backside look like? Oh, you get a 1 in domestic affairs. We are going to go with Ivan Mercer. What's Ivan's backside look like? Does not get anything really good. So, you are going to be our Secretary of Defense, though. Doesn't look like there's anything too crazy on the backsides for our cabinet, so I don't think I'm going to focus too heavily on trying to get them onto their expert spots, but pretty decent cabinet, not bad. We've got 2 of them with extra actions. That's pretty good. I think Krista and Kim are probably our all-stars with those extra actions, but not a bad cabinet at all. Let's move on to the next portion. Let's see. So we drew our exceptional White House resource, which was our First Lady. World Opinion Track. All of those are taken care of. The domestic situation, excuse me, public approval is already taken care of. Everything is good there. Congress, we are going, we're starting on the normal game. We do start with a split Congress. Now we are going to determine the American public's legislative priorities. So these are going to just be the public's main priorities. It's what they have on their mind, the main things that they want to get done and pass through Congress. So let's go ahead and just randomly pull those. Let's see what we got. We got tax reform, job creation package, infrastructure upgrades, privacy legislation, and lingering domestic issue. Now we are going to draw our campaign promise. So this is our campaign promise. It is what we campaigned on to get elected. It is what we promised to push through during our presidency. We have expanded NASA funding as our campaign promise. It does not match anything in the public priorities currently. That could change, but we may just try to pass it no matter what. For our legislative priorities, we get to actually search and decide what we want to be our legislative priorities. So those are just going to match the public priorities. We will just try to push through what the public already wants. So first thing's tax reform. Let's see here, tax reform, going right there. Next thing's going to be job creation package. We are going to grab that one as well once I actually find it. There it is. And then we are going to get infrastructure upgrades. Let's pull that out. Perfect. So, yep, like I said, we are just going to match what the public wants. If we can push these through, that would be perfect. And hopefully we'll be able to get those through Congress. What is next? Administrative legislative priorities. We got those. Congressional friends and opponents. So we are going to draw our congressional friends and opponents. These are our friends and enemies within Congress. They may have a media setting. They may have a congressional setting. Same with the opponents. They also may be either radical or moderate, since we are playing on the normal difficulty. If they have a radical side, some of them may have a radical side on one side, a moderate side on the other. Since we're on the normal difficulty, we always have to use their radical side if they have one. Radical versus moderate will affect bipartisan cooperation. If we have more radicals than moderates, bipartisan cooperation will go down. If we have more moderates than radicals, it will go up. If we have an even amount, it will stay where it's at. And during the course of the game, we can try to affect bipartisan cooperation during our domestic actions. Usually it's a good thing. This will tell us how many bills we can push through Congress. It also helps with various things. It's good to have it higher for the most part. So let's see what we've got for friends. We have Sally Myers as a radical. She has only got 1 congressional power and a media score of 1. The media score is pretty good. And we have Juliet James, who is a moderate on one side, radical on the other. Since we're on the normal difficulty, we have to take the radical side. So Juliet has a very high congressional score. That's good. We do have a little bit of media score with our friends, so that's good also. Also, I should point out that our party relations tells us how many friends that we can have. Since we are at party relations 6, we can have a max of 4 friends in Congress. Excuse me. Now we will draw our opponents and see who we've got there. So Dora is a radical. Again, we have to keep the radical side if they have one. Kathleen has a moderate side and is also moderate on the backside, so perfect. So we do have a congressional score of our friends that is higher than the congressional score of our opponents. So basically, they have more power in Congress than our opponents do, which is good for us. Looks like media relations with our friends equals our opponents, so there's not going to be much happening there. That usually, like, if I remember correctly, it pushes public opinion one way or the other. But we do have 3 radicals versus 1 moderate, so we are going to start with bipartisan cooperation in the leftmost 1 box. So already some contention in Congress. We'll see how that goes through. For now, we need to look at... what else we got? Initial bipartisan cooperation, we already took care of that. Military, I think that is all set up already. We've got military over there, we've got some military over here. The way that we unlock the military on this side of the board is we have to pass legislation to get expanded military. We'll see if we need that. I've done that one game. I didn't really use them all that much, so one interesting thing about the game is if you have military in certain areas, any non-air, non-special ops military units in a spot will add what's called military footprints. And those are always, or normally bad. Some of them have, they have random things on the backside of them. Some of it is no effect. Usually it's going to be something that is bad, so we want to avoid those as much as possible. So, alright, so in the world, we will have to change some things up in here. Conflict status markers, that is over here. Those are all set up already. Relative strength is already set up. Iran and North Korea's nuclear program markers are already set up. Strategic capabilities over here, those are already set up. Let's see here. Russia and China. I think there's a few things we're going to have to add over here. State of economies are already correct. Posture is already correct. Russia starts at posture 2, which means they are kind of puffing out their chest to start with. They're going to act a little more aggressively. And we also put the Russia Act token in the crisis area. So we are going to be drawing crisis chits. Excuse me. When it tells us to, so like over here it says draw 1 crisis chit, and then we may throughout the turn draw more. Those will be various things that we'll have to do on the board. Normally it's draw crisis cards. If we draw the Russia Axe card, chit, then Russia will get some extra turns. Normally we don't want that. Normally Russia makes it a little tougher for us in the world sphere. The China Axe chit does not go in because they start at posture 1. Hopefully we can keep them there. In order to get Russia to go to posture 1, we're going to have to do some things, but I'll talk about that later. We need to set up still. Okay. Draw and place 1 multilateral sanctions counter on Russia. So we are going to start with a sanction on Russia. We're going to put that right there. Place 2 tension counters on Russia and 1 tension counter on China. These tension counters do tend to build up. They do make life a little difficult. Specifically in Russia and China, they will normally, once they act, if they have too much tension on them, they're normally going to dislike the U.S. more, and they are normally going to act more aggressively towards the U.S. Place Russia's relations with U.S. counter in the 2 box. It is already there with a trending anti-U.S. chit on top of it. Place China's relations with the U.S. on 4. And China's, they do not get a pro or anti-U.S. I think we're good there now. So world regions. Eurozone. I think everything is good there to start with. Eastern Europe. Everything is good to go there as well. Middle East, I think we have to change some stuff in the Middle East. So the Israeli ally counter is on its very close side. We're good there. Gulf State, Saudi Arabia ally counter. No counter goes there. So we start only as close. We don't start very close with Gulf States / Saudi Arabia. One tension counter on Iran. So we will pop a tension counter over there. And tension counters do go on allies and rogue states. Iran and North Korea are rogue states. That, again, like the more tension they have, usually the more aggressive they act. So it is possible that if Iran has too much tension when it comes to be their turn, they might go to war. They might go up a spot in their nuclear track. Just bad stuff. Usually we want to lower tension on them whenever possible. One Civil War counter on the Civil War side up. That's already there. 2 unstable state counters, we have those. Level 1 and level 2 terror group, 1 level 1 and 3 level 2 terror groups, we've got those. 1 Russia influence counter, we have those. 1 Intel, 1 Special Ops, 1 Air Force, 1 Marine Corps in the U.S. Forces. Got those 2 U.S. military footprint counters, so we do need to add those military footprint counters. So again, these usually are not that good if we can get rid of them. There's a couple ways we can get rid of them. One that I can think of off the top of my head. But there's a couple ways to get rid of them. They usually have bad things on it. It can usually lower their view towards America. It can add bad things. It can add terror groups. It can lower the world opinion of the United States, so on and so forth. Usually not that good. We reveal them at the end of the turn to see what they are. And they usually blow up in our face. So, Africa. Regional crisis is 3 already. Yeah, we're good to go there. China influence civil war, 2 unstable states, 2 level 1, 1 level 2 terror group, 1 U.S. intel unit, 1 special ops, 1 carrier in the Indian Ocean. We're good to go there. Central South Asia. Oh, Middle East. I forgot to take that rogue state out of there. So that rogue state does not start there. We'll pop that back over there. Central South Asia, we may be good to go here already. Terror groups are good, unstable state is good. We do start at war with the Taliban. So you can see right over here that the U.S. is currently at war with the Taliban. That war is in Central South Asia. This little marker here shows that. India starts as a close ally, not very close. 1 tension counter on the India ally box. So India starts with the tension. And we also put 1 U.S. military footprint counter drawn at random. So again, those are not good. Asia and Pacific. Place the following counters in Asia and the Pacific. Japanese ally counter is at very close. We're good to go there. Australia is very close. South Korea is very close. And starts with a heavy army unit in it. And we also place 1 tension counter in South Korea. Place 1 tension and a UN sanctions counter on North Korea. And UN sanctions right over here. There we go. 1 Chinese influence counter. We got that already. Level 1 terror group. Level 2 terror group. Good to go there. 1 carrier in the Eastern Pacific. Good to go there. And I think Central and South America are good to go already. Let's see. Central America terror groups. These represent drug cartels. South America, stable states, good to go. Canada is a very close ally in the continental United States. Good to go. Perfect. All right, I think we are good to go there. Now we will have to build our crisis deck. The first thing we do is we have all these event cards. We are going to split them up into 4 mostly even decks. This is going to be deck 1. This is going to be deck 2. Deck 3. and deck 4. So these are going to be our crisis decks over the years of our presidency, year 1, 2, 3, 4. We are going to see these a bit. So in year 1, we are going to remove 7 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Year 2 stack, we're going to remove 12 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In year 3, we're going to remove 15 cards. 1. You know what? I don't think I removed the right amount of cards. Yeah, I just removed 7. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There we go. Alright, so in year 3, we remove 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Perfect. And over here on stack 4, we're going to remove 18 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and there we go. Place the removed event cards back in the game boxes. They will not be used during the game, so we can go ahead and get rid of these cards. And then we are going to get our natural disasters. So we have a natural disaster deck over here. We are going to place 1 face down in each of the 4 stacks. 1, 2, 3, 4. The rest of the natural disasters will get moved face down to the side of the game board. Boom. Pop it right there. Game events may instruct you to draw additional natural disaster cards. And now we will go to cascading events and terrorist events. Okay, so for an easier game, for a normal game, that's what we're playing. Shuffle all terrorism cards. Randomly place 3 face down in each of the year 1 and year 2 stacks. So here we got terrorism events. We will place 3 face down in year 1 and year 2. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Place 2 face down in each of the year 3 and 4 stacks. 1, 2, 1, 2. Place the unused terrorism cards in a face down stack near the game board, as the game may tell you to draw from there in the future. Alright, cascading events is our next stack of cards. Place 4 cards face down in the year 1 stack. 1, 2, 3, 4. Place 4 cards in the year 2 stack. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 cards in the year 3 stack. 1, 2, 3. And 2 cards in the year 4 stack. 1 and 2. Place the unused cascading event cards in the face down stack near the game board. You will draw from that stack later in setup. So what we're going to do is later in setup we are going to draw cards from that deck to seed the cascading events pile. Those are going to represent things that have happened before our presidency started. So kind of like long-term things that are already going on in the world before we start our presidency. Next, we are going to take one of the remaining exceptional White House resource cards after you choose one already in step 2. And we are going to put that in the Year 2 deck. So it is possible to get an extra White House resource card. Hopefully we can draw that. Those are always very helpful. Let's see here. Place the remainder of the exceptional White House resource cards back in the game box as they will not be used this game. So go ahead and remove those. Shuffle each of the 4 stacks individually, then place Year 1 stack on the Crisis deck and the other ones according to their year above the game board. So shuffle, 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 and shuffle. And then we are going to pop this first year into the Crisis deck. Second year is going to go into the Year 2 spot, obviously. Third year into the Year 3 spot. And fourth year in the Year 4 spot. So as the years progress, we will start combining these new decks into our Crisis deck to create a bigger deck. Let's see, Seed Cascading Events. So for a normal game, we are going to draw 3 cards and do them individually as if we had drawn them from the Crisis deck. With the following exceptions, we are going to ignore any place tension on cabinet focus results. Your cabinet hasn't had time to decide its focus yet. We are going to ignore all public approval results. You can neither be blamed nor rewarded for the state of the world when you take office. And ignore any instructions to spend APs. At this point in the setup, you don't have any presidential action points yet. You gain APs in step 1 at the beginning of each turn in the flip book. So we are going to draw 3 cascading events, apply the results on those, and see what we get. First one, China pushes territorial claims in South China Sea. More island building. Place 1 tension counter on China and 1 regional crisis in Asia Pacific. So we are going to put a tension counter on China. We are going to increase Asia and Pacific's regional crises. Add 1 China influence in Asia Pacific. It is unfortunate, they've already got 2. Place a trending anti-US counter on US-China relations track. So they are already disliking us. That is unfortunate. We'll see what we can do about that. And I think that is about it for that. Yes, so we can put that in the spot 2. These can come up later if the game tells us to, if we draw a crisis chit that tells us to draw from the stack 2 cascading events. So second one. Let's see what we got there. That amazing DARPA. I believe this is actually a good one. So DARPA enhances U.S. strategic capabilities. Choose one of the 7 strategic capability tracks and increase the U.S. rating on that track by 1 box. This is big. So cyber warfare, we start behind China and Russia, and that can really bite us in the ass. So this is huge. I love that we are advancing our cyber warfare currently. That is amazing. That amazing DARPA. And then we put that into the spot 2 as well. And we draw our last cascading event to start with. Russian military intimidation in and around the Baltic states. Place 2 tension counters on Russia and NATO and 1 tension counter on the UK. So 2 on Russia. Oops. So already building a big stack of tension counters on Russia. Wonderful. 2 go on NATO as well. And 1 on the UK. Alright, what else we got? +1 regional crises. +1 regional crisis in Eastern Europe. So Eastern Europe's regional crisis is going to go up to 1. And place a trending anti-US counter on Russia's US relations. Wonderful! They are not liking us. They are at 1 relation with us. That's going to be difficult to take back up. Roll a d10, adding the current value of the Russia-NATO conflict track. Alright, so I don't believe we have dice yet. Let's go ahead and make some components. Dice. Let's go with a plastic die. We will get a d6 right here. And we also need a d10. D10. Put that right here. And let's change the color to, I think it's red. I think it's red in the game. I think it's D6 is blue, D10 is red. Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, so roll a D10, adding the current value of the Russia-NATO conflict track. Or current value of the Russia-NATO conflict track is 2. So we will roll a D10 and add 2 to it. See what we get. So 9 plus 2 is 11. Normally we want lower numbers. Lower numbers are normally good for us. Higher numbers are normally bad. So we have 9 plus. So same as 5 through 8. So backlash. Remove 1 Russia influence counter from Eurozone or Eastern Europe. That's actually not so bad. So we will remove... let's go ahead and remove 1 from Eastern Europe. So we will remove a Russia counter. Russia influence. That's actually really good. Place 1 tension counter on Russia and NATO. Again, already getting a big stack of tensions. The game hasn't even started. Wonderful. All right. Place 1 tension counter on Russia and NATO, and then place a trending anti-US counter on Russia's US relations. So game hasn't even started, and Russia is literally at the worst possible relationship we could have, and they also have 5 tension counters. Nice. All right. So seems like the trend is that our relationship with Russia is going to be a little tense right from the get-go. All right, that is the start of Mr. President. Let me go get a glass of water real quick, and I will be right back, and we will begin the game. Okay, I am back. We will be playing some Mr. President. So, how we play, pretty straightforward. What we are going to do is we have a current U.S. action chit right here, and we are going to go top to bottom, left to right, across the turn sequence track here. It'll basically tell us what to do. We also have this turn sequence flip book to help us out in certain situations. There's a couple charts that we need to look at, so we can actually even open it up right now and see where we are going. All right. So the first thing we do is determine how many APs we're going to start the year with. So again, APs are called action points. That is basically, we can spend those for various things. We can make rolls a little easier. We can spend them on crisis cards to do various things. You can spend an AP to re-roll a roll made on the master charts. So there are diplomatic, domestic, presidential, and military master charts. If we make rolls on those, we can spend an AP to re-roll. I believe we can spend an AP to take an extra action, or we can skip an action to get an extra AP. So those are things we can do. So if playing on a normal or harder game, you start each turn with 15 APs. I believe that is currently what we are at. So currently at 15. From the cabinet effectiveness track, example, if you are at effectiveness 4, which is what we start the game as, this would give you plus 2 APs. So we have plus 2 APs from that, and plus 4 APs if you have the efficient presidential attribute, which we do in fact have. So we are going to add another 4 onto our current 17, so we are going to start the game with 21 APs. Not bad. That's going to definitely help us out. Let's see, minus 3 APs if you have disorganized, we don't. Plus 2 APs if you have the amazing chief of staff, we do not. Apply any effects other than APs gained from presidential attributes. Excuse me. Example, business friendly, amazing secretary of treasurer, blah, 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 blah. So we are going to apply our media savvy attribute. That is going to give us +1 to media relations. We're going to pop that up. And then our talented and beloved First Lady is also going to give us +2 public approval and +1 to either media relations or party relations, our choice. I think our party relations are actually fine. We might want to just up our media relations, so we will have kind of a leg up on anything that involves the media. So let's pop that up to 7. Might as well. So our First Lady gave us some advantages. Those were nice. I think that is about it for effects that we need to apply. Excuse me. Let's see here. Key cabinet member experience. We do not do this on turn 1. Optionally replace 1 key cabinet member. We also do not do that on turn 1. Improve the cabinet. Don't do that on turn 1. Set focus. Regions for national intelligence collection. So you may have either 1 or 2 focused national intelligence collections counters this turn. Here's how you determine. Check your strategic capabilities for both cyber warfare and strategic recon and intel, which would be these 2 strategic capabilities right here. If both of these values are greater than or equal to both China's and Russia's values on these tracks, you get 2. So with that DARPA card that we got, cyber warfare is now equal to China and Russia, so we do get 2 of these counters. That is awesome. I love it. In any other case, you get 1. Place each available focused national intelligence counter in 1 world region of your choice. No more than 1 counter per region. So this is going to help us against terror groups. It can also help us against this war here. So what we are going to do is we are going to pop these, since we get 2 of them, we're going to pop them in the Middle East and Central South Asia. So that's going to help us with the war and the terror groups in the region. So we are going to put this counter right here, and we are going to put this counter right there. It is rare that we get a cascading event that actually helps us at the beginning, or at least it has been rare for me. I guess I haven't done too many games, but that was awesome. I loved that. Cascading event actually helped us out. Awesome. Okay, so now where are we going after that? Let's see here. Blah, blah, blah. State of the Union, we do not do that on turn 1. So we are going to go to economic assistance, not on turn 1. Improve strategic capabilities. This we do on turn 1, looks like. So let's see here. So we are down here. We skipped a lot of things on turn 1. We are at improve strategic capabilities. If U.S. state of economy is 5 or higher, which it currently is, starts at 6 right here. Let's see here. We roll for 2 different capabilities. If the state of economy is 4 or less, roll for 1 capability. Also, if there are any DARPA/rapid capability counters on the tracks, you get to roll for those. We do not have any of those yet. For each capability you choose to improve, and for DARPA/RC rolls, roll a d10. The Secretary Defense Military Rating provides a negative DRM, which is dice roll modifier, on any non-DARPA roll. On a 1 through 5 result or 1 through 7 result for any attempts on DARPA counter, improve that capability by 1 box. So we don't have any DARPA counters anywhere. So we are looking for a 1 through 5 result with I believe our Secretary of Defense military is 1. It is, so we got a -1 DRM. We need a 1 through 5. modified roll. We are going to, again, start with cyber warfare. It is good if we can get our cyber warfare up as much as possible. So we are going to start with that one. We are going to make a d10 roll with a -1 DRM. So that is 10, -1 is 9. We definitely failed that roll. That's too bad. Next, strategic recon is also very important. We are already 2 ahead of our peers, though. I might want to try something else. Strategic missiles and defense. I've had that come up before. Naval Forces Training and Tech, I've had that come up before also. I think we're going to go with strategic missiles / missile defense. See if we can up that one. Alright, so again, we are looking for 1 through 5. That is a 9, -1 would be 8. We failed that. Not so good on our roll so far. Okay, so we did not go up in any of our strategic capabilities. That's unfortunate. Can't win them all. Hopefully that doesn't set the tone for the rest of the game. Hopefully our die rolls are a little better than that. Next we are going to set President of the United States / cabinet focus. We're going to pop this over here. So we are going to place or move any or all of the 6 cabinet focus counters to reflect your new domestic focus priorities for this year. Let's go ahead and do that. So these are our cabinet focus spots. We get to choose which ones we want to focus on the most. One thing I like, especially in the beginning turn, I've noticed that I think address domestic crisis is probably the most important, so I'm going to pop the #1 spot right over here. This will also give us a -1 dice roll modifier when we try to lower domestic crisis in the United States, and if we try to lower lingering domestic issues in the future. So we're going to keep that at #1. I don't think, since we've got 2 attributes that up our media relations, I don't think we need to focus on media relations. So that's probably going to be our least pressing thing that we need to look at. So public / press relations, we're going to make that priority 6, lowest priority we have. Economy's always good. Improved relations with Congress, always good. Cabinet effectiveness. I think we want to up our cabinet effectiveness as quickly as possible, so I'm going to pop that on there too. Cabinet effectiveness is going to, if I remember correctly, if we try to lower lingering domestic issues, we have to roll against our cabinet effectiveness, and the cabinet effectiveness actually only goes up in half steps. So if we improve cabinet effectiveness, we just put a improving token on it. It will only go up if we are instructed to put a improving token on it when it already has an improving token on it. That will make it go up. The same is true for things like trending anti-US sentiment or improving US sentiment. Whether or not it's on Russia, China, or alignment within Eastern Europe. State of economy, that's also true for. They will have an improving marker, and it will only actually go up another box if something specifically says to make it go up a box. Some things do. But normally it will be if you have to put an improving counter on it when it already has an improving counter on it. Instead, you take the counter off and move it up a box. So back to cabinet focus. Let's see here. So these things are all good to have. I think we probably don't need Homeland Security as much. These two doesn't really matter because they only succeed on 1 through 3 for both of them. So let's go ahead and pop this one here and put economy here. Yeah, I think that's good. Next over here is going to be 1 action for the president and each cabinet member. Let's see here. So yeah, 1 action for the president and each cabinet member. And the actions that they are referring to is on these master charts that I have here in my hand. Unfortunately, you can't see them, but there are quite a few actions like the presidential master action. That's usually what I do first. So I get 1 action from either the president can activate anything from the presidential chart or any of the other charts. So the president can activate anything from any of the charts. So we have quite a few things that we could do. A lot of possibilities, and this is actually where, like, when I first started playing, I'm just like looking at all these things. I don't know what I want to use or why I want to use it. So it's kind of just a lot of possibilities. Now that I've played a while, I have a pretty decent grasp on like kind of what I want to be doing. So for our first act, I think I'm going to want to corral the cabinet. Like I said before, it's always a good thing to have the cabinet effectiveness go up as much as possible. That is important for various roles. So let's go ahead and corral the cabinet. So, looking at our chart, this will cost 1 action and an optional cost of -1 AP for a -1 DRM to our roll. The procedure is roll once on the cabinet improvement table, and that is going to be in our domestic chart. So we're going to have to reference a chart in our domestic booklet, which I have right here. And then we will apply the results. Let's see here, cabinet improvement table. So what we're going to do is we are going to roll a d6, and then we have some modifiers here. It'll be a -1 if we spend one AP. It'll be the minus the number of our domestic rating of our chief of staff, which is currently 1. So then we're going to have a -1 if we have the team builder attribute. We do not. Then it's going to be +half rounded down the number of tension counters in the POTUS/cabinet focus area. So it is possible to put tension counters along here. We don't currently have any, so that is going to be 0. So probably a good thing that we're doing this when we don't have any tension counters yet. So the question is, do I want to spend that -1 AP? I might want to keep it. We can spend the... Actually, no, we can't spend it to re-roll because we are going off of the master actions into a booklet. So we are going to spend that AP. I am going to go ahead and spend that AP. So we have -1 for that AP that was spent. We got another -1 for our domestic rating of our chief of staff, so that's a total of -2. We don't have any tensions. We don't have team builders, so that is going to be our DRM. -2. So we are going to roll a d6, subtract 2, and then we're going to check the chart for our result. We got a 1. That is a 1 -2, 0 or less. So we have improving. That is definitely a pass. Like I said, lower numbers are good, higher numbers not so good. We got a -2, or sorry, -1 is what we got. So improving, place improving counter on the cabinet effectiveness track. So we're going to take this improvement token and pop it right over there. 1 advisor becomes experienced. Roll a d6 to determine. Now, if I remember correctly, it doesn't seem like any of our advisors actually gain too much on their experience side, so this doesn't matter too much. But we will go ahead and roll. So we got a 1. So the Secretary of State on a 1 through 2 will become experienced. So this is our Secretary of State, Kim. We are going to flip Kim. Oh, that actually does help. So Kim does increase her diplomatic ability. So that is actually pretty handy. That might have been... Is that the only one that would actually... Yes, I think it is. So we got the one that actually would help us. That's perfect. All right. So Secretary of State has gone to her experience side. That was actually really good. And that was our presidential action. That was successful. That was pretty good. Now we go on to our our VP. So our vice president can use any diplomatic or domestic action. Let's see here. What do we want to do here currently? Let's see. So diplomatic or domestic. Let's see. We could encourage bipartisanship. What is Asia Pacific? So I am a little concerned with the China influence that's currently in Asia and Pacific. If China increases their influence in here too much, they could put a base, which is basically a permanent 3 influence counters in Asia and Pacific, and that is not good. We can roll to try to remove these, but since the alignment with America is only at 6, we can only do that if the regional crisis level is at 0. It's currently at 2, unfortunately. If our alignment with them was at 7 or 8, we would be able to do that without the regional crisis level restriction. So we might want to start acting towards getting those removed. So I think I will try to do that, yes. So that is going to be a diplomatic action. That is going to be crisis relief. Excuse me. So our crisis relief, choose a region and roll a d10. DRMs is going to be the diplomatic rating of your Secretary of State, which is now at 2, so that's wonderful. So we're going to have a -2 to that. -1. Actually, now that I think about it, so it says this is one thing that I was kind of pondering with the rules. So it says diplomatic rating of your Secretary of State, but our VP is doing it. So I think we should probably use our VP to use this DRM. So it's going to be a -1. -1 if regional stability is 6 or higher. It is. Regional stability is at 6. So we've got a -2. So we are going to roll a d10 -2 and see what the result is. 8 -2 is going to be 6. So we are going to decrease regional crisis in the region by 1 box. Nice. All right, and that was our VP. Moving on to our Chief of Staff. Our Chief of Staff is Krista Halston, has 1 extra action, so Krista actually gets to act twice here. So we can use any domestic action. First one I want to try is to address a domestic crisis here. So our domestic crises start at 1. Let's try to lower that. So that's going to be 1 action. We are going to make a cabinet effectiveness check. So we are going to roll a d10, and we need to get equal to or lesser than whatever our cabinet effectiveness rating is. And this is one of the reasons that it's so important to have a high cabinet effectiveness rating. So currently we need a 4 or less. Excuse me. Modified roll. DRMs are going to be -1 if address domestic crisis is #1 POTUS/cabinet focus, which it currently is. -1 if you have domestic focus POTUS attribute, we don't. -1 if public approval is 60% or higher, it's not. Minus the number of your vice president or chief of staff's domestic rating, which is currently 1, plus the DRM from the current box on the lingering domestic issue track, which is currently at 0. So we will get a -2 to our roll. So we're going to roll a d10 -2 and see what we get. So 3 -2 is going to be a 1. That is definitely going to be a pass. Hooray. So decrease the domestic crisis track by 1 box, +1 public approval. Very nice. +1 public approval. Now, we do still have a lingering domestic issue. We do have an extra domestic action. It's going to be a little tough to address this lingering domestic issue, though. So again, we are going to... so we can only take this action if domestic crisis level is at 0. Let's see, what would it be? -1 to if address domestic crisis is our #1 focus. It is. -1 if you have domestic focus attribute. We don't. If public approval is 60% or higher, blah, blah, blah. So this is going to be another cabinet effectiveness check. It's going to get a +2 to all rolls representing the heightened difficulty of dealing with a lingering crisis that has gone unattended. So we would get a -1 from our domestic crisis being #1 focus, but it would be a +2 to rolls just because lingering domestic issues just get a straight up +2 modifier. So we would actually be rolling a d10 +1, and we would have to get a 4 or less. I'm not liking those odds, so I think we'll have to attempt that later on. So what we could do is maybe improve relations with Congress, or we could discredit, dissuade congressional opponents. I think we might actually start doing that. Which one would we do? Probably this one? Okay, so discredit, dissuade congressional opponent. Why would we do that? Remove an opponent back to the draw cup. When we can do that, it can only be used once per activation segment, so we're good to go there. Cost is 1 action with an optional cost of -1 or 1 AP for a -1 DRM. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Which one do we want to fight, though? So I am not opposed to getting rid of the Radical. I'm not opposed to getting rid of Kathleen, though, because she has a media rating and a pretty decent congressional score. Although the higher congressional score does give a +1 DRM to the roll. Let's see here. Spend 1 AP. Domestic rating of VRP or Chief of Staff, which would be 1. Let's go ahead and do this. We are going to try to get rid of Kathleen. Let's see. Although it would be 4 -2. It would, because if we got rid of Dora, we would still have more radicals than we have moderates. It would be easier to possibly get more moderates in the future, though. It would be easier to get rid of Dora than it would, but if we get rid of Kathleen, we would have immediate advantage. Let's go ahead and try to do that. So we will target Kathleen. We will spend that AP. So put that there, spending that AP. Alright, so we are going to roll a d6. -1 if public approval is 60% or greater. It's not. -1 if you spend an AP. We did, so we got a -1. -1 for the domestic rating of your chief of staff, so we got a net of -2. +1 if opponent's legislative rating is 2 or 3. It is, so that's going to be a net of -1. +1 if relations with Congress is less than 4. It is not. Alright, so we're going to roll a d6, -1. See what we get. 4 -1 would be 3, which is no effect. We are actually going to spend an AP to re-roll that. Let's see what we get. Nice. Alright, so that's 1. -1 would be 0. That is a success. Place the opponent back in the draw cup. Goodbye, Kathleen. Nice. Alright, so we have friends that outnumber opponents there. That was our Chief of Staff's action, so now it is on to our Secretary of State, who also has +1 action. So this is going to be anything in the diplomatic actions. So again, my plan is to try to lower some crisis level here and then try to remove China influence. I think that would ultimately be the best. Let's go ahead and try that. So we are going to do crisis relief in Asia and Pacific. So -2 from our diplomatic rating of our Secretary of State because she is experienced. -1 if regional stability is 6 or higher, which it is. So we are going to roll a d10 -3. Very nice. 3 -3, that is going to be 0. Decrease regional crisis in the region by 2 boxes. Very nice. Lost a little value there, but that's all right. So now we do have an extra action for our Secretary of State. Excuse me. And we will attempt to remove a Chinese or Russian influence counter in one region. So we can do this, may only be used once per activation segment. Choose a region with regional alignment of 7 or 8 or 6 if regional crises are at 0, which they now are. Roll a d10 on a 1 through 6 result. You may remove 1 Russia or China influence counter from that region. There are no DRMs for this roll, so we need a d10. We need to roll a 1 through 6. That is an 8. We are going to spend an AP and re-roll that. 3. That is perfect. That is a 1 through 6. It is successful. We get to remove a Chinese influence from the area, and that is good. Again, if China gets too much influence in there, it is possible that they will build a base, and bases are hard to remove. There are some situations where bases can get removed, but those are normally pretty difficult. So, now we move on to our Secretary of Defense, which can use military master actions. So, what we are probably going to do is move some military forces. So we've got some military forces over here. They're not doing a whole lot in the continental United States quite yet. So I think we're going to move some of them. So we can choose to reposition carriers and move Marines. Select a total of up to 2 carriers or Marine units. Move carriers to any carrier deployment zone. Move Marine units either into any carrier deployment zone or from a carrier deployment zone to a connected neighboring region. Marine units ending their movement in a carrier deployment zone is placed on their 2 strength side. So Marines have 2 different sides. If they're on the carrier, they're on their plane side, which has 2 fighting force. Otherwise, they go somewhere else. I think I am going to send the carrier to the Indian Ocean, which will help us out with this war. And same thing with this Marine unit. We're going to flip it to that side, put it in the Indian Ocean. Remember that at the end of the turn, any land units that aren't special ops get a military footprint in there. Putting it in the ocean is going to prevent it from getting a military footprint, but you'll see that the Indian Ocean is still connected over here, so it will add its power to our war rolls. Alright, so that was the one action from our Secretary of Defense. So we move on now. Excuse me. We are going to move over here. So, now what this means is Russia or China is going to act. They usually cause some problems. It's a little unfortunate. We have a lot of tension already on Russia. A couple tension on China, not too bad. I'd prefer it to be less, but what are you going to do? So we're going to roll a d10. 1 through 5, Russia acts. 6 through 10, China acts. And you'll notice over here, whoever didn't act on this spot is going to act later in the turn, so they will both get a turn in the turn. So let's go ahead and roll a d10. Let's see, that's going to be 3. So Russia is going to act. So we're going to put this Russian shit right here to represent Russia acting. And now we have to go to our World Peer booklet for Russia. Pull this out. First thing we have to do is determine if victory and player auto loss. So has Russia lost the game, or won the game, excuse me? They have not. I don't think it's possible for them to win the game immediately. Unless, I guess, maybe you could get some terrible cascading events, but that would be weird. So Russia has not won the game. In order for Russia to win the game automatically on their turn, Russia has to have a base in Eastern Europe, a total of 9 or more Russian influence counters on the map. A base counts as 3 influence counters, and either Eurozone stability is less than 5, or either NATO or the UK have an ally relationship with the US worse than very close. So Russia has to have a base in Eastern Europe in order to win. Again, bases are real bad. That's one of the reasons we don't want bases, especially in Eastern Europe and Russia, because that would be let them win. So if Russia has not won the game, then did you just draw the Russia Acts crisis chit? We did not. So we move on to posture changes and results. To determine whether Russia's posture changes and further effects of accumulated tension, flip all the tension counters on Russia. So I don't think this is actually going to affect us much. They're already at posture 2, and they are already at the worst possible relationship status with us. So not much is going to happen. It can't get worse currently. So let's see what we got. There's a couple no effects. So it's actually only +3. That's surprising. I actually expected it to be a little more, which means there's not as many no effects over here. So those are probably all numbers and the other tension counters. Let's see here. If currently at posture 1 and the sum of the flipped tension counters is 5 or more, and Russian relations with the United States is 1 or 2, increase Russia's posture to 2. It's already at 2, so we don't have to worry about any of that. If current posture is at 2 and the sum of the flipped tension counters is 0 through 1, and relations with US is 4 or 5, decrease to posture 1. That does not apply, because they are not at relations 4 or 5. If currently at posture 2 and the sum of the flipped counters is 5 through 9, excuse me, randomly increase one of Russia's conflict tracks by 1 box. That is not true either. If currently at posture 2 and the sum of the flipped counters is 10 or more, increase both of Russia's conflict tracks. That is also not true. So based on the sum of the tension values above, Russia's relationship with the United States may be affected. It can't get worse. As follows: if the sum of the counters is 0 or 1, place a trending pro-U.S. counter on relations with the U.S. That's not true. For every increment of 5 in the sum of tension counters, place 1 trending anti-U.S. counter. So it's at 3, so none of that applies to us currently, which is probably good. I guess it doesn't matter. Like I said, can't get worse. So we move on to, then immediately before you perform any other actions, remove all tension counters on Russia and redraw half rounded up the number of counters removed and replace them number side down. So we've got 5 tension counters. Half of that would be 2.5 rounded up to 3. We will replace these 5 tension counters with 3 tension counters. 2, 3. Alright, after checking for and, if necessary, changing Russia's posture, then improve Russian strategic capabilities, which are going to be these tracks over here. Make 2 if currently at posture 1, or 3 if at posture 2, which they are. So they'll be doing 3. Attempt to improve Russia's strategic capabilities according to the priorities below. For each attempt, roll a d10 and subtract 1 if there are any sanction counters on Russia. There are sanction counters on Russia. This is actually a misprint in the rules. Sanction counters should make it harder for them to do this, so we are going to add 1 instead of subtracting 1. Let's see here. A 1 through 4 result at posture 1 or a 1 through 5 result at posture 2 equals success. Increase the current capability by 1 box. Use the following hierarchy to determine which areas you attempt to improve until you have completed all of your allowed improvement attempts. This there at posture 2, we'll be doing 3 attempts. So the first in the hierarchy are areas in which Russia trails the U.S. by 2 or more boxes. Russia trails us in strategic recon, so we're going to roll there. And I think that's the only spot where they trail us by 2 boxes. So let's go ahead and roll on there. Again, we are going to do a d10 plus 1. That's going to be 1 plus 1 is 2. So they do go up on here. So there are no other areas where they are behind by 2. So if you have 2 or more actions left, attempt to increase both cyber warfare and strategic recon intel gathering. Cyber warfare and strategic missiles defense. Strategic missiles defense right there. Okay. If only 1 action remains, choose between them randomly. So we have 2 actions left, so they are going to roll on both of those charts here. So cyber warfare first, d10 plus 1. 4 and 5. They're at posture 2, so 1 through 5 does work. That is unfortunate. They go up ahead on cyber warfare. Now we're doing strategic missiles and defense. So let's roll for that one. 2 plus 1, they go up on that too. Jeez. I think that may be the first time that I've played a game where all of their strategic capability attempts were succeeded. So good for Russia, I guess. Bad for us. Espionage. After attempting to improve Russia's strategic capabilities, then conduct espionage. If Russia's relations with the U.S. is 1 or 2, and posture is 2, they make 2 espionage attempts, which is true. They are at 1 relations with us and posture 2, so they are going to make 2 espionage attempts. For each attempt, apply DRMs below and roll a d10. What are the DRMs? -1 or 2 if Russia's cyber warfare strategic capability is 1 or 2 higher than the US's. Unfortunately, now that is true, so they do get a -1 DRM to their roll. -2 if any U.S. ally relationship is currently estranged. That's not true. -1 if the U.S. ally relationship with any ally except India and Gulf states is not very close. +1 or 2 if U.S. is higher on the strategic capability for cyber warfare. That's not true. +2 if there is a +2 DRM to next espionage. +2 if there is a Russia +2 DRM remainder of the game. Okay, so the is going to be a D10 -1. Alright, so 8 -1 is going to be 7. So their espionage attempt is steal military secrets and war plans. If possible, increase the strength of a U.S. opponent by 2 in any current war. We do have a war, and their strength is going to get increased by 2, unfortunately. So it goes from 6 to 8. Unfortunate. Damn it, Russia. Alright, so the next, so they are at posture 2, so they get one more espionage attempt. -1. 2 -1 is 1. Steal technology. Roll a d10 to identify a random strategic capability. Increase Russia's capability in that area by 1 box. 3. So they go up on Naval Forces Training and Tech. Jerks. Alright, and that is it for espionage. Improve economy. After performing espionage, then improve economy. Do not attempt if Russia's state of economy is already at 7. Their state of economy is at 4. So they're going to roll a d10. DRMs, +1 if there is a unilateral sanction counter on Russia. There's a multilateral sanction counter on Russia, so it's going to be a +3. -1 per Russian influence counter in Eurozone and Eastern Europe. We did take one out of Eastern Europe, so it's just one in Eurozone. So that's going to be -1 for that influence counter. -1 if Russia relationship with the U.S. is 5. It is definitely not that. So it's going to be a net of +2 to their roll here. So d10 +2. 3 + 2 is going to be 5. No change. No change. After attempting to improve Russia's economy, then calculate the number of Russia actions. Use these actions in the following dependent and remaining action hierarchies. It is going to be Russia receives a number of actions equal to the current value of their state of economy track +1. So their state of economy is 4. So they are going to start with 5 actions. Let's see what we got. Modify the base number for any +1 APs or -1 AP counters on Russia. If you rolled a 9 or higher on your attempt to improve the economy, subtract 1 from the total. So that did not happen, so they will have a total of 5 actions. Let's see what they got. Perform each action listed below once in order until all Russian actions have been used or all actions have been performed. Number 1, terror in Central South Asia. If there are at least 5 total terror group levels, combination of values on terror groups in Central South region. I don't believe there are currently. Total number of terror groups, total value of terror groups is 3. So this does not apply. Quell Rising Internal Dissent. Roll a d10, adding 1 if Russia posture is 2. So we are going to roll a d10 and add 1. Where's our d10? There it is. So 10 + 1 is going to be 11. So that is going to be no effect. The step does not count against Russia as an action. Number 3, reinforcements. If Russia is at war, spend a Russian action. They are not at war. Possible Syrian intervention. If you are a new player or it is year 1 in the game, skip this action. So we will skip that. Go to 5. Let's see here. New conflict in Eastern Europe or Central South Asia? ? If there is a rogue state of any level in either region that is not already at war with anyone, then they will do stuff. There is not, so we will skip that. Alright, so if you have no Russian actions left, you've completed this step, or this segment. Return to the turn sequence. They have 5 actions still, haven't used any. So let's see what we got. Number 1, cyber attacks and online disruption campaigns to disrupt, weaken, confuse, and delay. This will cost them 1 action. Make 2 attacks using the chart to the right if at posture 1, 3 attacks if at posture 2, they are at posture 2. So they will make 3 attacks. If you are performing a cyber attack as part of Russia, we're not doing that. For each attack, roll d10 to determine the target, then another d10 to resolve the attacks on the chart to the right. So, first of 3, we're going to determine the target. Number 7, so that's going to target U.S. relation with European allies. So now we will decide if it is a success. Let's see. Russia's cyber strategic capabilities is greater than the United States, so they have more opportunity for a major success. Let's see what they got. It's going to be an 8, so that's just going to be a normal success. Decrease the NATO ally relationship by 1 level if possible, otherwise decrease UK. So NATO is no longer a very close ally, unfortunately. So we pop that over there. Alright, so that was the first. This is going to be the second cyber attack. It's going to be a 9. Let's see. Target Eastern Europe democracies. We're going to roll to see if it's a success. It is an 8. It's going to be a normal success. Success adds a Russian influence counter in Eastern Europe. And third and final cyber attack. That is going to be 6. Target EU cohesion. 3. That's going to be a major success. Major success decreases stability of Eurozone by 1 box and increases regional crises in Eastern Europe by 2 boxes. That sucks. Alright. So stability goes down. This goes up 2. Jeez. Alright. Increases regional crises by 2 boxes. Alright. So that was 1 action by Russia. 3 cyber attacks. That hurt. They are down to 4 actions. Let's move on. We are going to initiate multi-domain, low-intensity, gray zone attacks to expand Russia's influence in neighboring regions. This is also going to take 1 action. Attempt to expand Russia's influence in 1 region. Attempt in the first region where the conditions are met. If no region's conditions are met, skip this action. So if any region has 3 or more Russian influence counters, create a Russian base. We do not. Thankfully. Alright. So we will move on to the next one. Expand Russian influence. Make 1 roll, see below, on the first region, specified by the following conditions. Attempts to expand Russian influence in Eastern Europe if there are 0 through 1 Russian influence counters and no base in Eastern Europe, which is true. Or 2 Russian influence counters and no base in Eastern Europe, and 3+ Russian influence counters or a base in Eurozone. Alright, so that was an or, so it is true that there's 0 through 1 Russian influence counters and no base in Eastern Europe, so they will attempt to expand influence in Eastern Europe. Alright, so roll d10. And add, let's see, roll d10, add the selected region's U.S. regional alignment. So their regional alignment is 6, so we're going to roll a d10 plus 6. It's going to be 10 plus 6 is 16. On a result of 10 or less, place 1 Russian influence counter on the selected region. Any other result has no effect, but does count against their actions. Alright, so that actually worked out for us. So they used an action, so they are down to 3 actions now. Compromise to facilitate removal of sanctions, question mark? Skip this action if there are no sanction counters on Russia. There are sanction counters on Russia. Multilateral sanctions. If Russia's relations with the U.S. is currently 4 or 5, remove all sanction counters on Russia and continue to the next action. This does not cost an action. If any sanctions counters are on Russia, roll a d10, applying the DRMs listed below. DRMs. -1 if posture is 2. That is correct, so we got a -1. -2 if Russia's strategic missiles / missile defense capabilities is 2+ higher boxes than the U.S. I don't think that is true. No, they are not 2 higher, so we do not add that. -2 if Russia is on the Russia +2 box in relative strength to Russia NATO. They are not. +1 if Eastern Europe stability is 6 or higher. Let's see here. Eastern Europe stability is not 6 or higher. +1 if Eurozone stability is 7 or higher. It is not. It is at 6. +1 if U.S. strategic missiles defense capability is 1 or 1 box is higher than Russia, or if NATO is on the NATO 1-2 box. Neither of those is true. +1 if this is the last Russian action available. It's not. +2 if there is a multilateral sanctions marker on Russia. That is true. So -1 for posture 2, +2 for the multilateral sanctions. So this is going to be a D10 +1 altogether. 8 + 1 is going to be 9, so 9+. The West stands firm and Russia blinks. If Russian posture is currently posture 2, decrease to posture 1. Oh, that's amazing. Love it. And remove all sanctions. So we removed the sanctions, but they moved to posture 1. That is awesome. All right, I love it. If posture 1 already, decrease status on Russia track. Remove all sanctions. That track is already at 1, blah, 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 blah. Cool. And that cost them an action. So they have 2 actions left. And let's see what we got. Secure. Sorry, I missed my spot. Okay, secure, exploit, militarize the Arctic. This will cost them 1 action as well. Roll a d10. So just straight up roll a d10. It's a 3. Deep sea mining yields Arctic riches. Place an improving economy counter on Russia's state of economy track. Improve economy. That costs them an action. They have 1 action left. Reinforce allies, build military, use force. Attempt the 2 options below in this order if the conditions are met. If only 1 condition is met, perform only that option. If Russia has a relative strength on the Russia-NATO conflict track, that is lower than NATO. So it is not lower than NATO. It is in Russia's favor. Let's see. So that is not true. If Serbia or Syria are at war, perform the first action specified by these conditions. That is also not true. So none of these were true. So it looks like we skipped this. Veto UN sanctions is the next thing. If there is currently a UN sanctions counter on Iran or North Korea, there is. Russia vetoes the renewal of sanctions at the UN, otherwise skip this action. Roll again if this was a random result. Remove the UN sanctions counter from Iran or North Korea if no UN sanctions on Iran. If this does not apply and this was a random result, roll again. So we unfortunately removed the UN sanctions from North Korea, and that will end Russia's actions for this turn. That could have been worse. Unfortunately, they raised 3 different strategic capabilities, but we did get them lowered to posture 1. So that's actually pretty nice. They're going to be a little less belligerent. So yeah. So now we are going to any 3 actions. So we can take any 3 actions we want. The things that are currently pressing are, let's see here, we got rid of some of that influence, which was good. The pressing things right now are going to be probably lowering crises that are at the 3 spots here, because those can cause trouble. We do not want them to get a major crisis. So I think we're going to be probably doing crisis relief here. Yep, I think that's what we're going to be doing. So minus the number of diplomatic rating of your Secretary of State, which is 2. -1 if regional stability is 6 or higher. Let's go ahead and start with Eastern Europe. So stability is not 6 or higher. Hopefully we can raise some stability over there. So we are going to have a D10 -2. Let's see what we got. 9 -2 is not going to do anything. That's going to be a 7, no effect. Let's go ahead and spend an AP on that. Reroll that. And it's even worse, so 10 minus 2 would be 8, no effect. Sucks to suck. Alright, so that was one of our 3 actions. Next action is going to be trying to do the same thing. Again, minus 2. 4 minus 2 would be 2, decrease crisis in the region by 1 box. Okay, so that was successful. That was nice. Let's go ahead and try to lower crises in the Middle East. Oh my god. Let's re-roll that. There we go. Okay, so 2 minus 2, that's going to be 0. 1 or less, decrease the regional crisis in the region by 2 boxes. So that worked out well. Okay, so we will lower that. Unfortunately, that was our 3 actions. So now we are going to draw some crisis chits. Let's see what we got. Russia Axe. God damn it. Okay. Let's pop that on there. All right. So, Russia Axe. Let's go in here. Okay, so if the Russia Axe Crisis Chit has been drawn, let's see, when you draw the Russia Crisis Chit, that is a minor activation for which you skip down to the remaining action hierarchy and only perform 2 actions. Cyber attacks, make 2 attacks, and roll a d10 to select another random action from the 1 through 10 list of remaining actions. Okay. So we are going to do 2 attacks, 2 more effing cyber attacks. Jesus, alright. So, first one, target number 3. That's going to be target U.S. political cohesion. Let's see how successful it is. That's going to be a 9. Since they are higher on the cyber strategic capability, that's still going to be a success. Success decreases relations with Congress by 1 box and bipartisan cooperation by 1 box. That is not good. That sucks. Alright. So next cyber attack, we've got a 10. Target Eastern Europe democracies. Let's see how successful it is. 2. That is going to be a major success. Adds 2 Russian influence counters in Eastern Europe and increases regional crises by 1 box. I'm glad we lowered it. There is going to be 2 influence. We're going to have to get rid of some of that. And to do that, we're going to have to either raise their alignment with us, or we're going to have to get crises down to 0. So, fortunately, we have some time to take care of that. But all right, so that was their cyber attacks. Now we get to roll randomly on their hierarchy of actions. Veto UN sanctions. So we're going to roll again since there are no more UN sanctions. 1. That's cyber attack, so we have to roll again. 1 again. Roll again. Roll again. 9. Okay, what do we got for 9? Middle East influence. Attempt the first option where conditions are met. If there are fewer than 3 Russian influence counters in the Middle East, attempt to place 1 Russian influence counter there. Roll a d10, add the Middle East U.S. regional alignment, which I don't think is too high right now. It is at, I guess it's not too bad. It's at 5. Training anti-US. Yeah, okay, so it's at 5. So we are going to roll a d10, add 5. It's going to be 15. If the result is 10 or less, place 1 Russian influence in the Middle East. So they do not. Alright, so that wasn't so bad. This Congress and bipartisan cooperation, that wasn't very good. But, we'll see what we got. Okay, so since that Russian Axe token does not have a plus sign, we don't draw more. So we would only draw more crisis chits if it had a plus sign. It does not, so we will not draw anymore, and our action would now go to the ally and rogue group X phase. So I think that'll be about it for tonight. I think I'm going to call it. It's getting late. I started a little later than I meant to. Hopefully I can stream again either tomorrow or sometime this weekend and get some more Mr. President and see what we can do. So thank you anyone who is watching. I will see you later. Have a wonderful evening. Talk to you later. Bye.